Hey Weirdos, this is Andrew popping in really briefly before this episode begins. So, as you know from the title, this episode is going to be on Derinkuyu, the underground city. So not only is this a fan favorite, but this was also one of my personal favorites that I have done so far for History for Weirdos. It's really difficult to tell a story about a place, especially if that place had existed in some form for thousands of years, right? Going all the way back to the late Bronze Age. So, without further ado, let's tell the story of Derinkuyu, one of my personal favorite episodes, and hopefully you enjoyed as well. Thanks for listening.
Hello and welcome to History for Weirdos.
We're your hosts, Andrew
and Stephanie,
and each week we're going to take you on a journey into the strange, obscure, and relentlessly entertaining corners of human history.
Now listen up, friends, because it's about to get weird. Hello and welcome to episode 84 of History for Weirdos. And happy Easter, Passover, Ramadan, all the holidays of springtime for all those who celebrate them.
Yeah, the Holy Trinity of the Abrahamic religions.
Yes. We had a lovely Easter today. We saw the Mario movie.
Right, because that's what Jesus would have wanted.
Yeah, and it was really funny. Definitely recommend it.
It was better than I was expecting.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
So tell me, Andrew, you have been very secretive this week about your topic. Sometimes for the weirdos listening, sometimes we tell each other and sometimes we don't. And this week you've been particularly secretive. So I'm dying to hear what the subject is about.
This is true, and it has absolutely nothing to do with Easter, Ramadan, or Passover.
Wow. So it's really thematic, it sounds like.
Very thematic, yes. No. This is an interesting episode because I don't think we have ever covered a place before. We almost always cover either people or events.
Yeah, no. I don't think we've ever covered the history of a location.
This is a specific location, and it's very interesting. It actually came to me by way of a weirdo.
Ooh.
Yes.
I love the weirdo recommendation.
Yeah, so this is a weirdo recommendation. And when he sent me the message, I researched it. I was like, oh, yeah, I love this. I'm absolutely going to do an episode on this.
Oh, I'm so excited to hear what it is.
So today we're heading underground to explore the mysterious and ancient city of Derinkuyu in modern-day Turkey.
Oh, this sounds very interesting.
Yes.
I've never heard of Derinkuyu.
Well, and because when I say underground, let's just say that I'm not being metaphorical here.
I was going to ask, do you mean literally underground?
I mean, literally, we are going underground. Specifically, we're going to the area in Turkey called Cappadocia, which is in the central area of Anatolia or Asia Minor, which is like the part of Turkey, the most of Turkey that kind of juts out into the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
So this is an incredibly ancient part of the world when it comes to human history, where some of the oldest man-made structures in the world have been found. You know, specifically the Neolithic site of Göbekli Tepe, which could honestly be its own episode. But we're not here to talk about that.
We're here to talk about
Derinkuyu.
Yeah.
So let's just say, imagine you're a poor farmer in Cappadocia in 1963.
Okay.
You keep on losing your chickens, and they just go into thin air.
Those damn chickens.
I know, and you go to investigate and just to find out what the heck is going on here.
Yeah, where are my chickens?
Yeah, where are your chickens? Where are my chickens? So you determine that these chickens keep disappearing behind a small crevasse, and so you decide to renovate your house, right? To figure out, what's going on, what's behind this little crevice. Now, I know people have remodeled their homes before and have found, original hardwood, secret rooms, and even wells, right?
I love those videos.
Crazy videos, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this not all just pales in comparison to this. This unnamed man, we don't actually know his name. He found an underground, extensive series of passageways, tunnels, and chambers. Literally an underground city.
Under his house?
Yes, behind a wall.
Oh my God.
So what ended up happening was there was a passageway that led to a bigger passageway, and he was like, oh,
That's where
wow.
the chickens were?
Yes.
Oh my God.
I mean,
That's crazy.
this dude just wanted to find his chickens, and apparently he found like a whole new world instead.
That is nuts. And I guess that's bound to happen when you live, like you said, in such an ancient part of the world, such an
Right.
ancient part of human civilization. But that still must be so wild to discover.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's one of the most extensive underground dwellings in the world. And when I say extensive, I mean it. The city goes 11 stories deep.
Oh my
at
God.
least. And this wasn't just some dirt tunnels with nothing special. No, it was actually like a truly remarkable feat of engineering, especially for like the ancient world.
And it's something that lasted. This was
Yes.
1963, you said, when he
Yes,
found it?
1963.
Oh my God.
And we're going to go into the longevity here too. Like, it's going to blow your guys' minds. So it was complete with living quarters, kitchens, wineries, and even chapels.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the construction of the city was really well thought out and planned. The builders of Derinkuyu were really clever. They constructed ventilation shafts that reached all the way to the surface, so there was constant like inflow of fresh air.
Wow.
So it wouldn't get stale. There was even a massive 180-foot shaft that doubled also as a well for accessing clean water.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Navigating this underground maze like just must have been challenging. I mean, they had a system of tunnels and passageways connecting the various levels and rooms, and they used these massive stone doors called, just rolling stone doors to seal off sections for security in case there was like an invasion.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. And all of this could support a population of about 20,000 people.
And that would all be underground, essentially? Like
All
it was
of it
when
was
it was
underground.
built, it was built to be underground?
Yes.
Oh my God.
And we'll get into like, the who, what, why
Mm-hmm.
in a second. But that 20,000 people, it doesn't even include the livestock estimates, which
You're
there would have been
right.
livestock in addition to those people.
This sounds way more detailed and strategically planned than Los Angeles County.
Probably.
That's amazing.
I mean, to be fair, Los Angeles County has what, like millions of people?
Yeah, but look at our freeways. They didn't have millions.
That's true. Yeah, they were idiots. Whoever planned the freeways are idiots.
They could have learned something from these guys.
I know. That's very true. So the first question you might have is like, who built this and why? And I'm sorry to say that the answer isn't actually that simple. We just don't know the why.
We don't know why they decided to
We
build
don't
11
even-
stories deep underground.
I'll get to that. I'll get to it. But it's also important to mention that this wasn't built just all at once, and in fact was probably a series of constructions that added additional tunnels and levels over a time horizon of centuries.
Oh, okay. That's
So
a very
this
long
was
time.
a very long time. I mean, probably even millennia.
Millennia?
Yes. That being said, though, let's go to the beginning. And Stephanie, what is one of my favorite historical topics of all time?
Okay, you have a couple,
Yes.
but I'm going to say it's the Bronze Age collapse.
It's the Bronze Age collapse.
You reference it so often.
I literally even put in my notes, yes, the Bronze Age collapse.
Yep, you knew I'd get it.
I knew you'd get it. So around 1200 BC, we think some refugees from the now fallen Hittite Empire settled in the area and built some of the very first portions of the city.
Okay.
It wouldn't have been, if this did happen, this is only like a kind of like a guesstimate. It would have just been like the very beginning and would have just been more of like a nothing compared to what it would be.
Yeah, just some structures.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And again, I just want to remind everyone that this is just a hypothesis and isn't actually set in stone, no pun intended.
Mhm.
But there have been some late Hittite artifacts found when exploring the caverns, so it's a well-supported hypothesis.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the things that they must have found.
Oh my God, over the course of so many years.
Oh my God.
And speaking of the Hittites, their capital city of Hattusa, at its absolute apex, had a population of around 40 to 50,000 people. So Derinkuyu could fit roughly half of that population when it would be fully completed.
Okay.
So it's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So, but back to the Bronze Age collapse, we know that most civilizations at this time just completely collapsed, right? And writing pretty much from this period is incredibly
sparse.
Yeah, we don't really know what was going on.
Yeah, there's like it's like 400-ish years where it's kind of like we just need to rely on archaeology because there's just no writing.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes to stand that pretty much, from the time between initial construction in 1200 BC to the reemergence of civilization in, the early 700s BC, we can't really infer a whole lot of like what happened.
During this time, like languages changed,
Yeah.
technology changed. They're just like big leaps, right, from the writings that we have of like, whoa, this is a very different.
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite parts of the Bronze Age collapse was in reference to the ancient Greeks, like their writing system literally, like if you were to show an ancient Greek, oh, this was like Mycenaean Greek.
Mm-hmm.
So from like before the collapse, they wouldn't know what that was. They would just be like, oh, this looks like gibberish to me.
That's so nuts.
Because it's a completely different alphabet. It is just completely different. It was like character based / alphabet based before, whereas like, the ancient Greek is completely alphabet driven.
Right. Would you say that it seems like some civilizations kind of started over during this time?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Some like, Egypt survived, but would never be the same.
Right.
Would never be as powerful as it once was. The only civilization that kind of like came to dominance again was the Assyrians.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
they went through a period of decline for centuries before that would happen.
Yeah. So interesting.
It really is, yeah. And we're just essentially really looking at archaeologists to help us understand like the absolutely fascinating history like at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, actually, the first time these caves are ever even mentioned in any sort of documentation whatsoever was because of a Greek author and historian, Xenophon.
Mm-hmm.
And does that guy sound familiar at all?
Yes, totally.
So he's the main ancient source for history pertaining to the Greek city-state of Thebes in our episode of the Sacred Band of Thebes.
The Sacred Band of Thebes.
Which you guys haven't listened to it yet. It's episode number 27.
It's a good one.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Check it out after this one if you haven't.
Absolutely. And he would be writing about this place in the 4th century BC. And by that time, people would have already been inhabiting this place for, roughly 800 years.
The underground city?
Yeah.
That is so nuts.
And that's the first time that we found any reference to it. So, that's much later than what we're talking about right now.
That I can't, like, just 800 years in is when we see the first mention.
Yeah.
Like, so much must have been happening in the city to, like you said, to explain, like, why.
Yes.
Why is it being built down into the ground?
And, yeah. And we're going to get to that, too. So we come to the 700s BC and to a group of Indo-European people called the Phrygians. And fun fact, they actually have had a lasting legacy that even persists to this day in the most random way possible. Their hats.
Their hats exist to this day?
Yes. Actually, I didn't write this in my notes, but if you were to think of a Santa hat and take off the little ball at the top, that is like a Phrygian cap.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute.
Yes. In fact, actually, if you even look at the seal of the United States Senate,
Okay.
you will see the Phrygian hat or cap like within the seal itself, because during the 1700s, that cap became like a symbol for liberty.
I had no idea.
Yeah, I didn't know that either, actually.
Wow. So they were really ahead of their time in terms of hats.
Yes. In fact, even like when we were in Rome, we saw like a Roman statue of I think it was a Parthian,
Mhm.
and he was wearing like kind of like a funky little hat.
You mentioned it
yeah,
to the
that-
professor.
Yeah, and that was a Phrygian cap,
Wow.
or Phrygian hat, whatever you want to call it.
I remember, weirdos, I'll toot Andrew's horn here. The classics professor that we were traveling with, when Andrew pointed it out, like, oh, that hat wouldn't have been from his culture, his time period. He was so impressed.
Yeah.
He was like, yeah, how'd you know that?
So because I'm a huge nerd,
Because we have a history podcast.
we didn't mention that to him.
No, one day we will.
We will.
After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by overpriced wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So, when I heard that for a limited time, all Mint Mobile wireless plans are $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, well, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them, it made sense. There just isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they sell wireless service online. They don't have retail stores or salespeople. Instead, they deliver premium phone plans directly to you. And here's the cool thing. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all of your existing contacts over. So to get this new customer offer and your 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/HFW. That's mintmobile.com/HFW. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/HFW. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
So, and boy, the hat, and that's just a rabbit hole that we can go down, but I'm not going to.
Okay.
But I feel
You
like
wanted to mention it.
Right, exactly. I'd be remiss if I didn't. So let's go back to the Phrygians. They were an ancient civilization that was really known for their metalworking, their love of music, and stonemasonry.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. They were established in the Cappadocia region by the 8th century BC, although their roots go far, before that. Actually, fun fact, and ironically, they were the ones, or their precursor civilizations were the ones that kind of helped conquer Hattusa and the Hittite Empire.
Wow.
Yeah. So they found Cappadocia to be a perfect location to help expand and build like a true underground city, because the soft volcanic rock made it easier to excavate and expand, the already existing underground chambers that were there. And so we come to the fascinating question as to why. Like, why did they choose to build this massive underground city in the first place?
Right.
So again, we can't say for sure. There are a few theories that historians and archaeologists have come up with. One of the leading theories is that the underground city actually served as a refuge during times of war and invasion. That would make sense.
That's really
right?
smart.
Yeah. The Cappadocia region was located among important trade routes, and over the centuries, it was invaded and conquered by so many various empires and civilizations. In fact, at the end of this episode, I'm going to list them all out because it's kind of wild. So the underground city would have provided a safe haven for the people and, a good retreat during times of conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Another theory is that the city was built as a response to the harsh climate of the region. So Cappadocia is known for its extreme temperature swings with scorching hot summers and bitterly cold winters.
Mm-hmm.
So the underground city's constant temperature would have provided a comfortable living environment for its inhabitants, protecting them from elements.
Yeah, that's a really smart hypothesis as well.
Yeah, and, of course, there's the possibility that the underground city served multiple purposes, acting as both a refuge during times of conflict and, more comfortable living environment during extreme weather conditions, and who knows, maybe even other things as well.
So with those theories, then, they're assuming that in addition to the underground chambers and structures, the city, essentially the chapel and everything, folks would have also had homes above ground?
I don't know.
At the same time?
I'm assuming yes.
Yeah.
Like, I'm assuming that it's probably both.
And it's, we're being invaded again. Or it's like an extreme temperature, like, let's just move temporarily into the underground city.
Right.
Okay.
But I think that is true. But I also do think that there was always people living in there.
Okay. There were people that, this is just where I live all the time.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Since this 8th century BC, there were people, living in there.
Okay.
And it's kind of interesting too, because, not only was it just built as a place of refuge, but, again, it was a very defensible position.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's true.
And again, I kind of mentioned it earlier, and I think I'll get into it a little bit more later, but there's massive boulders that they could just kind of roll and block off passageways.
Right.
It's really cool. So let's talk about how life would have been like for the people living in this underground city. Again, it's important to remember that Derinkuyu wasn't just a series of tunnels and chambers. It was a fully functioning city, complete with, all the necessary amenities at the time. And again, like I mentioned and alluded to earlier, there would have been designated areas for food storage, cooking, and dining.
Mm-hmm.
The people would have relied on a diet of grains, legumes, fruits, and vegetables, as well as livestock animals like goats and chickens that could be raised underground.
I love legumes.
Yeah, I know you're a big legume person.
They don't love me back, but I love legumes.
So, and also what's crazy too is Derinkuyu had a sophisticated water management system where fresh water would have been collected from the surface, channeled down through tunnels, and stored in underground cisterns.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah, this was very, very well designed.
Yeah, great engineering.
And again, that's why a lot of archaeologists and historians think that the Phrygians had a really big influence in the building of the city and probably built a lot of it because of their just advanced understanding of metalworking and stuff.
Okay.
So again, this allowed, the inhabitants to have a reliable fresh source of water even during times of siege when, access to the surface was limited. And, additionally, the denizens of Derinkuyu didn't just live down there and not do anything else. There was evidence that they had their own sort of culture going on.
Like a subculture?
Exactly. Industry, like metalworking, basket weaving, pottery definitely took place as there was a lot of archaeological evidence of this. They also would have had a very rich cultural life with music, dance, religious ceremonies taking place, in the underground chapels.
That's so cool to think about.
I know. So they weren't just, surviving. They were living and possibly even thriving at times.
Wow.
The people of Derinkuyu were also incredibly resourceful when it came to their security. Again, the massive stone doors that they could just seal off passageways in case of attack. I think I'm going to post a picture of one on our Instagram. So make sure to follow us if you haven't already.
At History for Weirdos.
Exactly. These circular boulders could be rolled off, but to seal off the passageways. But, once the threat left, you could easily roll them back.
Yeah.
So there was also evidence of traps and just kind of passageways that led to nowhere just to confuse the enemy.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Also very smart.
Exactly. And the labyrinth was just massive overall because we're talking about 170 square miles or approximately 445 square kilometers of land, which just kind of boggles my mind.
That's insane.
That's huge.
I would definitely have gotten lost if I lived there.
Oh, yeah, me too. So now I'm pretty good with directions, but I need more familiar landmarks, not just underground tunnels and stuff.
Yeah.
Secret tunnel.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of the secret tunnel episode in Avatar.
Yeah. So let's talk about the architecture and just how they managed to carve such a massive city. So millions of years ago, there was, the area was actually just buried under volcanic ash, and this created naturally forming dome-like structures that Cappadocia is really known for.
Okay.
Even to this day.
That's cool.
And the rock that formed is actually really soft, making it easier to dig through. And the Phrygians were, again, like I mentioned, were excellent stonemasons and blacksmiths. And they would chip away at the rock, just striking it, with sharp tools to remove large chunks, carving out rooms, tunnels, and of course, storage spaces. What's even more fascinating is how they managed to create just a stable underground structure that lasted for millennia.
Yeah.
So they achieved this by carving the rooms and passageways in a conical shape, wider at the base and then tapering towards the top. This distributed the weight and prevented collapses, meaning that they had a much more advanced, understanding of engineering than pretty much any of their contemporaries at the time.
Yeah.
Especially because this is archaic Iron Age, so no one else really, I think, had this understanding. Derinkuyu, I think, in my opinion, is just truly kind of a work of art, honestly.
Right. It's both engineering and art.
Yeah, definitely. So what's really fascinating is that we know these series of caves were continuously habited for well over 2,000 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when they have excavated, I imagine they find things from various time periods. And
Oh,
like,
yeah.
what a big freaking puzzle to have to put together.
Oh, yeah. And we'll like, I'm going to get into it, but it is wild. The stretch of time is insane.
Yeah.
And we know that, that the purpose of the city really changed over time and was dependent on like what civilization was kind of in charge, because we saw them kind of come and go.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, these tunnels would serve as refugee centers for persecuted Christians throughout the centuries.
Oh.
So I guess there's an Easter theme here.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. So first during Roman times, especially during the 2nd and 3rd centuries, and then later on during the Umayyad and Abbasid caliphates, starting in the 7th century. But we also know that Derinkuyu was also safe haven for Muslim Arabs during the 12th century.
That's so sweet. Just like a religious sanctuary for
Yeah.
people.
And we're talking here like, a difference between like the classical Roman time and then, the 12th century, that's like almost 1,000-year period.
Mm-hmm.
So, in fact, according to archaeologists, the city reached its peak during the Byzantine period, possibly almost a full 2,000 years after the original creation by the Hittites, all those years prior.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sure they couldn't have imagined.
Yeah, no, they definitely could not have. I can guarantee it. And the city wouldn't stop having inhabitants, oh no. In fact, the last people to call these caves their home were the Cappadocian Greeks, who were eventually expelled from the area and sent to Greece. So, Steph, want to take a guess just when that was?
No.
It was exactly 100 years ago, right after World War I.
Are you serious?
1923.
See, I'm glad I said no, because I definitely would have been way off.
Yeah.
1923?
1923.
Cappadocian Greeks were living in there?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, as part of, there was like a population exchange between Greece and the newly formed state of Turkey. I think it was either the very end of the Ottoman Empire or Turkey, whatever. And then they had a population exchange.
That is wild.
Yeah, it is. So basically, people had inhabited the underground city continuously from at least 700 BC all the way to about 1923.
Oh my God. I can't even imagine everything that those walls have seen.
Yeah.
And how much the earth and humans have changed.
It's
in
pretty
that time.
wild, huh?
Wow. That's incredible.
And all it took was just some guy to be doing renos on his house.
He
to
was
be
looking for
rediscovered.
his chickens.
Yeah, he really just wanted to find his chickens.
And he found these tunnels.
Yeah, and if you actually go to the modern day city of Derinkuyu, which there's like a city above ground that has the same name.
I assumed.
Yeah, you can go and explore about 50% of the caves because it's open to the public.
Oh,
Yeah,
I want to go.
yeah, we definitely are gonna go someday.
Oh my God, that would be so cool.
Yeah, and I think it's only like $10.
What?
Yeah, it's not that much.
Weirdos. Let's go.
Let's do it, weirdos.
Let's meet there.
And before I end this episode, there is one crazy fact that I want to mention.
Yes.
So
tell us.
this isn't the only underground city in the area. It's just the deepest and probably the oldest.
There's more?
Most likely the largest too. In fact, Derinkuyu was actually connected to another underground city, Kaimakli. I don't know how to pronounce that actually.
Let me see.
Kaimakli.
Kimakli, yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
Through about 5 miles or roughly 8.5 kilometers of tunnels.
The two cities were connected?
Yes.
That's so cool.
And in fact, some archaeologists estimate that there could be about 200 of these cities in just Cappadocia alone.
200?
And get this, in modern times, only about 6 of these have actually really been explored.
Oh my God. Oh my God. So we got to go become archaeologists
In Cappadocia.
in Cappadocia and find these.
I mean, Cappadocia has always been a really important place in terms of like ancient civilizations. I mean, the Romans were obsessed with the area too, and going back all the way to the Persians and everything. It was wild.
They were very intuitive and very just advanced, I guess.
Yes.
That's incredible.
So in terms of cultures and civilizations that inhabited the area, you had possibly the Hittites, and then the Phrygians.
With their hats.
Later, the Achaemenid Persians.
Right.
Then you had the Hellenistic Greeks, right, starting with Alexander. The Romans, the Byzantine Romans. Then you had Arab incursions into the area. Then you had the Seljuk Turks, the Mongolians, and then finally the Ottoman Turks.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It's so wild.
So many different cultures.
Yeah.
To have lived in this underground city.
Yeah.
Wow. Incredible to think about.
And yeah, that is some of the background behind the ancient underground city of Derinkuyu.
That is amazing.
Yes.
Thank you so much for bringing this up because now I'm adding a place to my bucket list for sure.
Oh yeah, I definitely want to see this. It was, the pictures online were just like incredible. And Weirdos, I hope you guys like this story too. I know it kind of is a little bit of a departure from what we normally cover, but I do think it was very weird and
in
would
the
resonate
best
with
way.
you guys. Yeah.
Also, while you were sharing, I actually remembered we have done an episode on a location before.
We have?
The haunted island of
Oh,
Puglia.
that was my episode.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, Poveglia.
Poveglia, not Puglia. Sorry,
Yeah.
Puglia, you're not haunted.
No.
Another city in Italy.
Yes.
Poveglia, yes. And didn't someone send us, there's a job opening there?
Yes. Yeah, it was like a security guard posting, and you get paid like a few $100,000 a year.
To hang out on the haunted island?
Yeah.
Yeah, not worth it for me.
I don't.
But if someone's hiring, freelance amateur archaeologists in Derinkuyu,
There you go.
we're down.
We're down. So the sources for this episode were the BBC.
Always a good one.
Always a good one. Sometimes interesting. This one, it was interesting.
Very interesting.
Very interesting. My Best Place, Big Think, ZME Science, Atlas Obscura, and of course, Wikipedia.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Andrew, again, for sharing about Derinkuyu's underground city. That's going to be somewhere where we definitely go. Hopefully, Weirdos, you get to visit or at least check out photos as well. And thank you so much. You know what to do. Follow us on Instagram at History for Weirdos. If you haven't already, please share this podcast with someone that you think might enjoy it or leave a review for us. It helps the podcast grow.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time.
Until next time, Weirdos.
Adios.